fellow beings, my name is Amanda, and today we are going to do something a little different. I'm going to do a story time while I crochet, and today we are going to be doing the simple chevron stitch, which is very Eastery for some reason. I am in the middle of making a Franken blanket where I am just using whatever yarn I have and doing a bunch of different stitches. Basically a sampler blanket, so it's going to be really ugly at the end, but I'm going to be so proud of it when it's done. And I thought that I would tell you a story while crocheting with you. So I'm going to teach you how to make this stitch, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my trip to Georgia last year and about how unhandicap accessible Georgia is. So yeah, it should be fun. So here is the stitch that we're going to be doing, and I hope that you join me in learning how to do this stitch with me. Also remember that I am not a professional. I am not in any way somebody that is perfect at crocheting. And I taught myself how to crochet years ago, and so my technique is probably not how like your grandma taught you, but that's okay, we can learn together. So let's begin.
Okay, so we are going to make today the simplified chevron stitch, and I chose the colors pink and purple because I thought they went well together. So we are going to be making this stitch. For this stitch you're going to need any kind of weight yarn. For me, I used size 4 medium yarn. This is the Joann's brand Big Twist. So this is the color pink that I used. This is the color purple that I used. I also used a size 5 hook, but use whatever size hook that goes with the weight yarn. And I'm gonna have to apologize for my nails are falling apart, but whatever. It is what it is. For this stitch, it is crochet in multiples of 11 plus 2. So you're gonna make your stitch according to how big you want it, and it's going to be 11 and then plus 2. So we're going to make a slip stitch here. It's probably the first time I've ever filmed myself crocheting before. Alright, so we made our slip stitch, and now we're going to chain however many we need. So I'm going to be chaining 44 stitches. So I'm going to chain 44. Alright, so I have my 44 chains, and now I'm going to add 2. So I'm going to add 2 to this. 1, 2. Alright, so that is my chain. Now you want to make sure that you make your chain longer than what you actually want it to be, because it's going to be making little V's like this. And so it's going to end up shrinking much smaller than you intend it to. So make it bigger than what you plan on making. Alright, so each crocheter is different. Some will crochet in the side here. Some will crochet and flip it around and do the side here. My favorite thing to do is flip it upside down, and you see these little knobs. Doop, 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 doop. I like to crochet in those. That way at the end, this will be at the bottom, and it makes it much easier when I do borders. Not everything are you going to need a border, but because I'm making a blanket, borders are important. So you are going to crochet from the second chain from the hook. So 1 and 2. And if you flip it over, here's your first knob, here's your second knob. So we are going to stitch 2 stitches into the second chain from the hook. Okay, there's 2 right there. Then you are going to crochet 4 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in the next 4 stitches, you're going to single crochet. All right. trimmer, and 4. Alright, so you have 2 single crochets in your second chain from the hook. Then you go 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the first thing that you're going to do is that you are going to skip 2 stitches. So we're going to skip 1 and 2, and we're going to single crochet in the third chain. So you can see that makes a little V right here, and eventually that's going to become much more pronounced. So now we're going to crochet 4 more single crochets. Alright, so that's 4 single crochets. So now in the next chain right here, we're going to put 3 single crochets into that one stitch. Two and 3. Now we're going to start it over again. So this little knob is going to pull it this way, and this part is going to pull it down this way. So that is your first chevron right there. So we're going to do 4 single crochets. We're going to skip 2, 4 more single crochets, and then 3 single crochets in one stitch. So let us do that. Okay. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to skip 2. It's going to go skip, skip, and then in the third, we're going to do 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to do 3 single crochets in the same stitch. 3 single crochets in this next stitch right here. 1, 2, 3. So we're starting to see that pattern is making its way into this. All right, we're going to continue that until the end. So single crochet 4 stitches, skip 2, 4 single crochets, 3 in one, and then you continue that till the end. And I will see you there. All right, so we did all the stitches, and now we have 1 stitch left. And we are going to put 2 single crochets into that stitch. So 1, 2. Then what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, and we're going to flip our work. So now you can see all the little bumps that are in this. And yes, it will flatten out as you go, but that is the pattern right now. Then what you're going to do is in the very first stitch, so here's your chain right here, in the very first stitch right here, you're going to do 2 single crochets. Now, you're always going to start with 2 single crochets, and you're going to end with 2 single crochets. So there's 2. And then just like you did before, we're going to do 4, skip 2, 4, 3 and 1, 4, skip 2, 4, 3 and 1. So let's do the first one. So 1, and then we're going to skip the next 2 chains. So if you look, there's your little V's right there. You're going to skip to 1, 2, and then go into this stitch right here. And then we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if you look, there's your big hole right here. So there were 3 stitches that you put in last time. So you want to make sure that you're always in the very center when you are crocheting your 3. So we're going to put 3 into this stitch. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to start over again. So now we're going to do the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to skip 2. So skip this one, and go into this stitch. And this counts as 1 for the next section. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 3 into that top stitch. So 3 into this stitch right here. 1, 2, 3. And you're going to continue that all the way to the end, and I'll see you there. Okay, so we made it all the way to the end, and now I want to change colors. Every crocheter is going to have their own way of changing colors, but this is how I change colors. So I have the last 2 stitches on my hook, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my other color that I'm going to use, which is purple, and I'm going to fold it, and I'm going to put it on my hook. I'm just going to pull it through those 2 stitches. I'm going to make sure that's nice and tight. And then, because I need to chain 1 anyway, I'm going to chain 1, and that should put it in there so that they are nice and locked. And I'm going to pull down on this pink again, make sure it's nice and locked. So now I have purple. So I'm going to flip my work, and I'm going to do the exact same thing that I've been doing before, but I'm going to crochet into the back loop only. So if you look at these V's, this up here is the front loop, and this right here is the back loop. So we're going to be crocheting in the back loop only. Now, you should be doing this every single time, but I messed up, but I don't want to go back because my trimmer is really bad. So just like before, we're going to begin with 2 single crochets in this stitch, and then we're going to continue on. So in the back loop only, so in the back loop, we're going to put 2 single crochets. 1 and 2. And then, just like all the other times, we're going to do 4, skip 2, 4, then 3. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to skip 2, 1, 2, then 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, oops, we're going to put 3 in this top right here. 1, 2, 3. And you're going to continue that all the way to the end. And when you're done changing colors, so 2 rows of pink, 2 rows of purple, or whatever color you want, you should end up with something that looks like this. And it makes this beautiful ridged pattern, so it likes to raise up. And it's really beautiful and makes a very unique stitch. Now I put a border around to make it so that it would be a square. So I added extra things to the end. But if you're making a blanket, I would suggest just doing a border that just follows along the edge of it. And that way you can keep that beautiful scalloped edge. But because this is going into a blanket, I wanted to make sure that it had square sides. So that is the simple setup for chevron stitch.
Alright, so I just switched colors again, so I'm going to go back with the purple. We're going to keep doing this because it's adorable and cute. So today I wanted to talk about when I went, it was last year for my birthday, Eric took me to Atlanta, Georgia. Now a lot of people asked while we were planning it, why on earth would you want to go to Atlanta? And my response was, well, why not? I haven't been there before, so why not? I thought that was a good enough reason. Also, the Coca-Cola factory was there, and the Georgia Aquarium was there, and I really wanted to see all of those things. So we decided to go to Georgia. So we took 2 flights to get out to Georgia, and we knew that it was going to be really long for me, and we ended up having a layover in Denver. We had a decent layover. This was just the 2 of us muddling our way through airports trying to get our luggage and me through the airport. Usually whenever we travel with my wheelchair, we also have extended family with us, and so they generally will take care of suitcases so Eric can focus on pushing me through the airport. So this was pretty much our first trip, just the 2 of us with my wheelchair. And it was an adventure. We will say that. It was definitely an adventure. First of all, I need to point out that when you are in a wheelchair, you become a non-person. You no longer exist. And people can fight to their dying breath to tell me that it's not true, but until you've been in a wheelchair, you can't tell me that's not true. We were going through security in Salt Lake City. I had handed my ID card to the guy checking ID cards at TSA. Handed him my ticket as well, and then my husband handed his as well because we were going through the handicap line. And the guy didn't even look at me, looked straight at my husband, and he said, "Can she walk?" And I leaned up in my chair trying to get into his viewpoint, and I was like, "I can walk a short distance, yes." And then he just sat and stared at Eric, and he was like she said, yes, she can stand up and walk short distances. And he was like, so will she be able to get through the metal detector? And I'm like, yes, I will. But he didn't even look at me. He just kept looking at my husband. He's like, yes, she'll be able to get through the metal detector. I was getting so frustrated, and my husband kept like patting me on the back, just like, calm, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. So we get to the conveyor belt, and we got everything on the conveyor belt. Then they come out and they say, you're going to have to wait for someone to pull you through security. And I was like, why? And I like to check your wheelchair. I'm like, that's okay. I mean, they check my wheelchair every time I go through security. That's fine. But instead of having me get up and walk through the x-ray machine, and then they take my wheelchair through a different entrance and I just hold on to something and wait for my chair to come back, they pulled me through with my wheelchair, did the same check on my wheelchair, but then I had to get a physical pat down. So I had to stand there stupidly holding on to something while they patted me down. And all I could think of was, okay, I could have gone through the x-ray machine. This would have made everything much easier, but no one was listening to me because I'm a non-entity. I have no say in anything. Then I just kept thinking, what if I couldn't stand up? Would you like somehow wrench the person out of their wheelchair to give them a pat down? Like, how does this work? I really was super confused, and I was getting really tired and my legs were starting to shake. They finally passed me off and said, okay, you're good. But it took like 20 minutes to get me through security, where my husband was just like waiting. He had already gotten like his belts back on and his shoes back on, and everything was ready, and he'd pulled all of our suitcases off. And I'm just standing there being frisked, and my legs are starting to shake, and I'm getting super winded, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why is this happening? So we get through security, and luckily my husband plans everything to a T. Like, he definitely knows how to travel very well. So we were there in plenty of time, and we were early. So we got on the plane, and I mean, one of the perks of being disabled is that there are very few perks, let me tell you. Very few perks. But one of them is that you can get on the plane first, and they give you extra time to get situated because it's going to take you a little longer to get out of your wheelchair, to get into the plane, and all of that. So we were able to get on the plane relatively easily, and then we made it to our first destination. And we had a layover for a couple of hours, and I was already hurting intensely before this. Now, my doctor had actually had me get a fluid IV the night before, just packed me full of fluids, because they found really good evidence that works really well with ME and traveling, especially on planes. So I had spent the evening before in a hospital getting IV fluids, but I still was super tired. I was achy. I didn't feel good. And we found a secluded area in the airport, and I attempted to take a nap with my feet up and just trying to sleep. We were able to get back on the plane to get to Georgia, and again, it was pretty easy getting on the plane. I wasn't thrilled about flying to begin with, because flying now hurts. It hurts a lot. But we got to Georgia, and I was super excited because I'd never been to Georgia before, and my bucket list is to visit every state, because when we moved back to the States, I hadn't been to very many states. And when people ask me, where do you want to go? I like say very obscure states that probably have nothing really of huge interest to go see, but I'm like, I need to go see it because I haven't been there yet. So let's go. So we get to Georgia and I'm super excited, and we get off the plane, and that's when the adventure really started. Because that airport in Atlanta is a demon. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So we get off the plane and we find out that in order to get out of the area that we are, we have to get on a tram to get to the other side of the airport. Now this airport is huge. I found out from my therapist that it's so big that they have their own psychiatric area because people have a lot of meltdowns in that airport because it is ridiculous. So it's super crowded. We're struggling to get anywhere. And we finally get to the tram. After walking an eternity, we finally get to the tram. And we get on, and we finally get to the stop that we need. And it is so crowded on this tram, like so crowded. And we get on, and we're barely fitting in this tram. The doors open, and everybody pushes past us, and we don't even have time to like get me off of the stupid tram. And before my husband can even get me off of the tram, the door shut, and we head back to the original place that we had started. So we were like, it's not worth it. I don't want to deal with this anymore. There's too many people trying to get on the stupid tram. The doors aren't open long enough for the wheelchair user to get off of the tram, so we're just gonna walk. So we start walking. We're like, you know what? Walking's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Sure. We're walking, and we finally make it to one area, and there's a giant wall. And then it has a sign that has a handicap sign, and then it points to the elevator, and it says go up. So we're like, okay, I guess this is how handicapped people go. So we went up the elevator, and we get off the elevator, and there's nobody there. And we just start walking, and we come to an escalator. What? I'm in a wheelchair. How does the escalator help? So there was another lady in a wheelchair who started banging on a window that she saw, and someone came out and they're like, oh, in order to get out, unless you can stand up and like hold your wheelchair and go down the escalator, the only way you're gonna be able to get out is if you go back to the elevator and go up, and then you'll go down the hallway, and then you'll be able to get out that way. Okay, so we turn around, we go back, and we're heading up. Oh, doors open, and they're like, sorry, the only way that you can get out of here is if you can go down an escalator, and then when you get down the escalator, there's a revolving door, and I don't think your wheelchair is gonna fit through the revolving door. Excuse me? The sign said handicap go up. But then when the handicapped people go up, because there were two of us that had wheelchairs, we couldn't escape. There was no escape from the area. So the only way we could get out is if we went back down to where the tram was and get on the stupid tram. So we had to go all the way back down. And Eric waited by the tram door backwards because he was like, we're not doing this again. So as soon as the doors opened, he backed into the tram. Instead of walking me in forward, he backed into it. And as soon as the doors opened at the stop, we just pushed through people. We're like, nope, you're not leaving us on here. Since everybody was pushing me and stepping on me, we're like, well, you can play at this game. So we shoved our way out. So we finally get out of the stupid airport, and we're waiting for our bus that's gonna take us to the hotel. We had booked 2 separate hotels. The first night was close to the airport so that I could just relax, not have to deal with a lot of travel, just get to the airport, sleep, and then the next day we were gonna go to the hotel we were staying in for the rest of the trip. And this just so happened to be my birthday. We were traveling on my birthday. And we end up walking around for quite a while trying to find where we're supposed to meet this stupid bus, and we finally find out we're in the wrong place, even though the signs and the instructions on the phone told us to go to a different place. So we end up in the right place. The bus shows up, and horror just fills my soul. Because the bus shows up, and there are stairs to get onto the freaking bus. And I look at my husband and I'm like, this isn't happening. This is not happening right now. And they open up where all the suitcases go. And they're like, yeah, we'll fit your wheelchair into this area. And I'm looking at it, and the space was smaller than the trunk of my car. And I was like, you're gonna fit everybody's suitcases and my wheelchair in this thing. And the guy's like, yeah, we'll get it. They end up slamming my wheelchair like multiple times in the door. Ended up bending one of the things that are on the seat. Great. So then I have to drag myself up the stupid stairs. I am in a lot of pain by now because I have just been traveling all day. It is now dark outside. We've been traveling all day. We finally get on the stupid bus and we make it to our hotel room. And the first hotel, it's not that great of a place, but that's okay. So the first hotel was not really handicap accessible. We had a ramp that was super steep that got us up to the check-in counter, but there were so many ledges and lips and all kinds of things that every time Eric would try and shove me over it, I would almost fly out of the wheelchair, and it was getting very ridiculous. But we got checked in. It wasn't the greatest hotel, but the purpose of the hotel was not, it was just a place for me to rest while we got over the fact that I just traveled the entire day. But it was my birthday, and so my husband wanted to take me out to dinner for my birthday. So I wanted seafood. Specifically, I wanted crab because I love crab and I really wanted crab. But the problem is that I have dietary restrictions, and some of the places you're not 100% sure if they're gonna have food that you can eat. So we ended up going to Joe's Crab Shack. I wanted to go somewhere local, but I knew that Joe's Crab Shack I could eat it. So we ended up getting a lift to Joe's Crab Shack. We decided to leave my wheelchair in the room because we figured we would only be walking to the car and then to the restaurant. Like, we'd have them drop us by the front door of the restaurant, so I wouldn't have to walk very far. And we just didn't want to deal with getting my wheelchair into the lift. So we have dinner, and it happens to be like karaoke night or something, and no one is in there, and it was so awkward. But the food was good, so I was happy. And then we got a lift back to the hotel. And that was an uneventful evening, but it was a nice celebration of my birthday. We went to Joe's Crab Shack and I annihilated a lot of crab legs because I really love crab. The next day, we had to go back to the airport in order to get our rental car, because the first night we decided we weren't going to do a rental car. We were just going to use Lyft or Uber to get us to where we needed to go, and then the next day we would get a car. So we had to go back to the stupid airport. So I had to get my butt back on this stupid bus to make it back to the stupid airport, where we had to get on another tram service in order to make it to the car rental place. We get our car, which there was a lot of problems with, like which car and that whole thing. But we ended up getting a nice car that fit my wheelchair in the trunk, and it was fine. It was a nice car. So my husband asked me, where do you want to go? He's like, it's your birthday, it's your trip, where do you want to go? And I said, I want to go to the Oakland Cemetery. And everyone is probably going to think, what on earth, woman? What? But I actually really like cemeteries, and I had heard some great things about this particular cemetery and how beautiful it was, and the mausoleums. And so my husband, being the good sport that he is, was like, okay, then we'll go to this cemetery. So we make our way to the cemetery, and he's pushing me around the cemetery, and it's gorgeous. It's just a breathtaking place. If you've never been, I do suggest it. Yes, do people think it's morbid? Sure, why not? But I believe that cemeteries, especially the really old cemeteries, are really beautiful. And so I was enjoying myself. Partway through, I realized that I really needed to go to the bathroom. So we found a visitor center. Yes, there was a visitor center in the Oakland Cemetery, because they have like ghost walks and stuff like that. Unfortunately, if I would have known sooner, we could have booked a year in advance to get the ghost tour, but I didn't know. We like made the plans for Georgia like maybe a month in advance, but these tickets sell out super fast, so we didn't get to go on any ghost walks. So we make it to the visitor center, and to my horror, there's no handicap ramp. There are 2 steps and then a lip to get into this really old building. And I did notice that there was a ramp off to the side, but the ramp went up to an office door that said employees only. I was like, what? So my husband had to help me get out of my wheelchair, and he helped me get up the 2 steps. Then he lifted the wheelchair up to that layer, or that porch that was at the house, and he locked the wheels. And then I walked into the visitor center, which was a really tiny little building that had a little gift shop, and I wanted to buy everything in the gift shop because I have a weakness for gift shops. Where does Amanda spend all of her money? In gift shops. Always. You take me to a museum, gift shop is like my favorite thing ever, and I just go crazy. So yeah. So I make it into the bathroom, which even if there was a handicap entrance into this building, there is no way that my wheelchair would have made it down that hallway and into that restroom. It would not have happened. It was so skinny and so tiny, and then you had to make an abrupt turn to get into the stall, and it wasn't going to happen. So even if I had to have my wheelchair, it wasn't going to happen. Then I just kept thinking, what happens if it was like a paralyzed person, not an ambulatory wheelchair user? What if it was a person that literally could not get out of their chair? 1, they wouldn't be able to visit the visitor center, and 2, they wouldn't be able to use the restroom. So then that horrified me, because that's not how it works. Accessibility is supposed to be so that everybody can have the same experience. So we leave there and had a good trip. Got some great pictures. My husband thought I was very weird, but that's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And we make our way to the hotel. which is right next to it. They have the Coca-Cola factory, they have the Georgia Aquarium, and then our hotel. Like they were all in like the same area. So we make our way to the hotel, and our hotel room is handicap accessible. They're very polite. They actually talked to me, which was nice, and it's a lovely room. The only weird thing about the room was that the hot tub that was in the room, which was the whole reason why my husband booked this particular room, was because it had this giant tub, and all I wanted was to sit in a hot tub, and so he got me a room that had one. It was actually in the room and not in like the bathroom, so it was like in the room itself. So that was weird because I ended up, you know, sitting in a jacuzzi while my husband watched TV and I'm watching the TV too. And it was just really weird, but whatever. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So the Coca-Cola factory, I was super stoked because, I mean, I have a problem, okay? Yeah, I have a problem. So I was really excited because going to my Mecca was basically like Coca-Cola factory. They were super great. Like, the only issue I had with the Coca-Cola factory was that you had to go through a metal detector, but it was too skinny to take anything through, so we had to like try and wind myself around this stupid thing. That was my only issue. They made sure that I was always at the front of the lines whenever there were lines so that I could see what was going on. They always made sure that I had accessibility to whatever was going on, so when they were doing the whole orientation thing, I was in the front. They made sure I was in the front so that I could see. And then they took us into a theater and they gave me a special handicap area that also had a TV that had subtitles on it, which I thought was fantastic because I sometimes have a really hard time understanding when people speak, which is why I hate telephones, because I can't see their lips. And so I just had this little monitor that showed it was on the giant screen but had subtitles on it, and I was like, this is nice. Okay, this is good. I can deal with this. So the whole experience of the Coca-Cola factory was great. And of course, they had a sublime gift shop. Holy crap, I wanted to buy everything in this gift shop, and it was huge. And yeah, I ended up buying two things. I bought a pill holder that had Coca-Cola on it because I always carry pills on me because I have a lot of pills. And so my travel pill case is now a Coca-Cola one. And then I also bought a Coca-Cola t-shirt because my Coca-Cola t-shirt that I've been wearing for probably over a decade now. Oh, it's definitely been over a decade because I got it before I got married, and next week is my 11th anniversary. So yeah, the shirt's over a decade old and it's starting to fall apart. But that one was made from recycled Coke bottles. So I really like that shirt. Super comfy. And now that it's older, it's like super soft. But I needed a new one, so we got me a new shirt, which was great. And that was super fun, and yeah, I'd go to the Coca-Cola factory again in a heartbeat. Yeah. The problem with Atlanta is that they say that everything is up to standards and compliant and blah, 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 blah. That was so uncomfortable. One, like, I swear every road was cobblestone or some kind of like lots of little seams everywhere. So it was like, and I read an article once that said that wheelchair users experience more vibrations than heavy machinery users. So, you know, great for the back. Makes you feel so good. And then the ramps to go down from the sidewalk to the road, if you're crossing the road, they're super steep, and then they just stop. There's no nice like curvature to it. So every time my husband would take me down, it would get my foot plate and I would almost fall out. There was a few times that I had to put my feet out to stop myself, and I'm grabbing the side of the wheelchair. And you know, we laughed about it because if you're not laughing, you're crying, and I'd rather be laughing. So there was that. Super great, super great. But then there was also the fact that like a lot of places we would go, there wouldn't be a handicap ramp, there wouldn't be anything. Like we had found a cookie place that had gluten-free cookies, and my husband and I decided that we wanted to go get some, because why not? It's vacation, cookies. My husband ended up having to leave me outside on the sidewalk because the ramp to get into this building, which even if I got up the ramp, the lip into the store itself would have been impossible for me to actually get into, because it was at least that high. Like it was huge, which to a walker, you know, you just step over it and it's fine. But the ramp started 2 blocks down this strip mall. And you had to start way down there and then slowly make your way back up. And I was like, why do I have to go 2 blocks over just to get some cookies? And then while he was in the store, I kind of chuckled to myself because it started to rain. And I was like sitting on the sidewalk while the rain is coming down because people don't want the handicapped people in their stores. And I know that's not the reason. Don't come at me. It's just, my husband says it never rained, but it did. It did. And I just kind of chuckled to myself because I was like, I'm the sad person in the wheelchair sitting in the rain. So yeah, that happened more than once, that my husband would have to like leave me out somewhere. And it makes him sound heartless, but I told him, just leave me here, go get the thing, come back, and we'll eat it together somewhere else. And so he would run as fast as he could, get the thing, come back out and whatnot. But he shouldn't have to leave me at all. Like, why is this even a thing? We did go to the Georgia Aquarium, which whale sharks, I can't. I really wanted to dive with the whale sharks, but it was so last minute. Like our trip plans were so last minute, and you can't get tickets on the day of, and they're not cheap. So I watched them diving, and of course I had to critique the trail of divers, and I would point out who were experienced divers and who definitely were not experienced divers. But it was just magical. Like, I can't tell you how peaceful that was. In that area, there was an area where it was so jam-packed full of people that I was being stepped on, and that is where I had mentioned in an earlier video where I got stood on by children because I'm a non-person. But the nice thing about the Georgia Aquarium is that they go out of their way. Like, there are special designated handicap spaces to make sure that people in wheelchairs can see inside the tanks. So they have little blue carpets so that that's where wheelchairs go and you can't stand there. And then they had a little red carpet that's where children go so that the children could see, and then everybody else would just crowd around. And so I was really thankful for that because I was actually able to see inside the tanks. I was able to see what was going on. Eric and I were being complete goofs, and I was getting emotional because I really did love working at the aquarium. Not the Georgia aquarium, I never worked there, but the aquarium here. And I really loved the animals, and I loved my coworkers, and the excitement on the employees' faces when they would talk about the animals. You knew that that part was genuine. And I'm like, there's probably a lot of crap happening in the background, and there's a lot of drama. But I knew that their excitement for the animals was genuine, and that their love for their animals was genuine. So that was really nice. I really enjoyed the Georgia Aquarium, and in the future, if I plan accordingly and this stupid pandemic can go away, then I will plan accordingly, and then I could go dive with whale sharks. And I think that would be fantastic. That tank by itself was bigger than the entire aquarium that I worked at. That one tank. It was big. It was really big. But we had a lot of fun there. Overall, I really enjoyed the trip altogether. I thought it was a great trip. The only problem I found was that I just felt like I was an afterthought. That my handicap wasn't taken into consideration at all, and roads were way too steep. The ramps coming down from sidewalks were too abrupt, and I could have gotten really hurt if I didn't have use of my legs to put them out there and stop myself from flipping out of the wheelchair. If I didn't have use of my legs, I would have been flat on the ground, and it could have turned out much worse than what it did. And the stupid cobblestone stupidity, my back was dying after like an hour of doing that. Like, it wasn't. But yeah, I really enjoyed Georgia. I thought it was beautiful. It was as beautiful as I thought it would be, because I've seen so many pictures of Georgia, and I knew that it was going to be gorgeous, hotter than blazes, but I already knew it was going to be that way. And the humidity, my curly hair and humidity are not friends. So my hair was angry. It was angry the whole time. That's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Anyway, so the thing that I wanted to talk about basically was one, it's just a crochet with me. Learn a new stitch, crochet, learn something new, but also listen to me talk about handicap accessibility. I thought about doing other stories. I tend to tell a lot of really stupid stories, so I thought, well, let's do that. But I wanted to start with just talking about handicap accessibility, because that's something, it should be a right, not a privilege. And I think people view it as more of a privilege. We did this for you. Well, thank you, but you didn't actually have anyone that was handicapped come in and make sure that a handicapped person could use this, or you didn't think about the fact that most people in a wheelchair wouldn't be able to get out of their wheelchair and walk into the store. What if a person that was paralyzed really wanted some cookies? Why is it okay to make them go 2 blocks and then come back 2 blocks just to get a cookie, and then have to go down 2 blocks? Just like, it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem appropriate that we are making people that already have to give up so much in order to function in a non-accessible world. There's so much that we give up in order to make it easier for everybody around us. But then when there's just a little something that we need, like a ramp, or maybe make it a little smoother so that we're not like jarring our teeth out in our wheelchairs, or maybe make the ramp a little smoother so that, we're not falling out of the wheelchair. Things like that, I think, should be a right, but it's treated like a privilege, and I don't think that's how it should be. So those are my thoughts. I'm not saying that you shouldn't ever go to Georgia or to Atlanta specifically. I do suggest it. It's beautiful and people are great, and I had a great time. It was exhausting and I paid for it dearly, and I ended up in bed for like a month afterwards, but would I do it again? Yes. But traveling with a disability is not easy. It's not something that I have a lot of people like, oh, I wish I had a handicap tag. If you want to take the disability with it, I will gladly give it to you. And I will park in the back of the parking lot and I will walk myself to the store, because I really would rather do that than have to park in the handicap parking spot. Or people complain about being allowed to go first on the flights. If you knew all the work that it took to get from wheelchair to seat, get yourself situated and not have to deal with like climbing over people when you can't climb, there are reasons why. And yes, it is nice to be able to do that, but it's more along the lines of just making it as smooth as possible for the people that need the extra help. So don't make a big deal about it, okay? Anyway, yeah, let's finish this and continue on our way, shall we? Yeah. If you like learning about different chronic illnesses, different disabilities, or learning about what life is like with a lot of disabilities and a lot of chronic illnesses, then go ahead and click that subscribe button. And go ahead and click that like button if you did like the video. And it also helps the YouTube algorithm know that this video needs to go up in front of more people. And that's how that weird algorithm works. I don't know why, but it does. Remember to be kind. Kindness is free, so give it out to everyone. And I'll see you next time. Bye. And now I need to stop because my AC turned on again and it's freaking frying in here. So now I need to stop one more time because air. Oh, for Pete's sake. And I have to stop again because AC and death and hot and the AC lasts for like an hour. So, you know, this is gonna take a lot of time recording this. Oh my gosh.